The gavel has fallen in the Supreme Court on whether it's rulemaking or lawmaking. Welcome to another episode of You Can't Make This Shit Up. We have Kellen Clark, we have David Washington, and yours truly, Joel Hoxley. We are here to talk about another Supreme Court decision. We have been really impacted by these great, how do we put this? One of the biggest and most important all of the decisions was the Supreme Court deciding to overturn 40 years of precedents in a case brought by a New England fisherman. The court reversed what was known as the Chevron deference. In 1984 case, the court said judges should generally defer to federal agencies when rules they make are reasonable, and the enabling law was ambiguous. Now, last week's decision reverses the thinking for what this may mean for the agency rulemaking is
going forward.
Huge.
I think this is the most important case that the Roberts Court has decided since Citizens United. This is bigger than Dobbs. I would say without a doubt it's bigger than Dobbs, because this affects, throughout any type of regulations, whether it's environmental, whether it's labor, whether it's FCC, FDA. This penetrates nearly anything in the executive branch right now. And right now, since our Congress is so ineffective, right now a lot of these, what were before ambiguous laws that were passed down to them, with these broad delegations made by Congress, right now are really challenging, if not impossible, to enforce without further information from Congress. Now, this took a lot of power from the executive branch and moved it back into the legislative branch. Take that, Project 2025. that actually this would make projects like that a little bit more challenging. I completely understand the court's perspective, their legal reasoning, that being that it's the legislative branch's job to legislate, not the executive's. On the other hand, I personally, going to quickly throw my opinion, I think that if Congress wishes to delegate power for rulemaking, I think that's a reasonable thing for them to do, because they're not, Congress people, they aren't experts on every subject. Generally, if they're trying to give more powers to an agency, the agency people will be the experts. But I also understand the court's reasonings. It's going to be a mess right now, given the ineffectual Congress we have.
Right. I think that this is a victory for the folks behind Project 2025, because the overarching theme of 2025 is smaller government. And this is what, the conservatives have been fighting for years, is government so small you can drown it in the bathtub. And this puts the responsibility of interpretation of laws by Congress not in the hands of the federal agencies or the executive branch or administrative law judges, but to the hands of the judiciary, where now these administrative law judges will have to be judges who will interpret these laws and make very technical decisions in many of these questions that are before them on things that they're probably not equipped to make decisions on because they're not the professionals or the experts in that particular field. And from workplace safety to the financial markets to the environment, immigration is another thing.
Oh.
The administrative law judges are used to for these for the hearings. I forgot what type of hearings they're called, but this definitely is a pushback on government regulation. Joel.
Well, you're looking at the fact that the way it read prior is the administration was making there were rules, right?
Mhm.
Well, those rules finally have gotten to the point where they're no longer rules; they're making law. These bureaucrats are coming out saying you have to have this much emissions. You can't do this. You're finding, and it got to the point where okay, well you're just arbitrarily making up a law and you're affecting business. You're driving up their costs, and finally you have okay, lawmaking is done in Congress, and when those laws are made, you interpret them at the bureaucratic level,
Mhm.
but you don't make laws that exceed what is already written.
But it's the agency experts, who are saying we need to do X, Y, and Z for the greater good of the community, the greater good of the welfare of the community,
Then bring
and
it to Congress.
therefore, and Congress passed this law to say we need to protect, our environment. We need clean water, clean air, and these rules are in place. What constitutes clean water and clean air? Well, you've got agencies that employ experts in that field, from the chemists to the botanists to the physicists, to look at all this stuff and say, okay, this is what constitutes clean water.
Okay.
And this is the standard that needs to be met. So if a company is making a ton of money just dumping, as it has been in the past, just dumping waste into our waters and is bringing that standard down of safety, then yes, that
Then
company has to address that issue, stop dumping water or dumping toxins into our water. And will it cost that company to do that? Yes, for the greater good of our community.
But what is the executive branch? They are to enforce law. They are to enforce the laws. So doesn't say that the agency can't go to Congress and fight for, just like
Yeah.
these companies are fighting for legislation to be put out there. These agencies should be going to Congress and saying, Congress, these are the regulations, these are the thresholds that we want to meet, and have it get passed by 435 congressmen. I mean, that's all they're saying is now you have to go with your rules and get Congress to pass them. And if you are the experts that you say you are and you present it to them, then
Well,
they're going to pass the law.
Isn't that what they do already?
No,
if
No, no.
no. Right now they're making
I
making arbitrary
So-
rules. Like
So,
no, I'm saying if there's an issue that I
if I
see,
may,
if that our local no, let's just say Congress. If there's an issue that affects America that needs to be addressed, let's say, for instance, the Patriot Act. We had a crime upon America that needed to be addressed, and so the Patriot Act. So I gather all these national security professionals and to say we need to do X, Y, and Z to protect us. So we need to pass a bill that will either strengthen or weaken our right to privacy. And thus the Patriot Act was established. This is a very extreme example, but if there's a law I want to pass, don't I bring professionals, experts in that particular field where that bill will fall into, to testify in front of the Congress, to give expert witness, to give expert testimony and evidence, and so that they can make a better law? Doesn't that already exist? That's what I'm
So-
saying.
that's
Agency-
oversight. Right now, you're talking about oversight.
No,
You're
no,
talking about
I'm
what
not
the
talking about
oversight.
I'm talking about
We're
me
talking
as a
about.
citizen
I'm talking about
coming.
when you go when they go when an agency goes before Congress and they they testify, it's because of oversight. You're usually looking for something that, is this working? Is this not working? Now you're going to have to testify before
Yeah.
a committee to say, look, we want to regulate clean air at this level, and we want a CO2 levels being capped.
Mhm.
They'll have to go and
Yeah.
get that
Yeah.
law in place before they can just go and say, we're going to cap it, we're going to fine for it, and not have any legislation whatsoever has come down from Congress to say you can do it.
Well,
So
there
the
goes
way the way
regulations.
the way the way it often comes up right now is Congress will make an act. They'll say, "We want clean air. We're not going to define what clean air is, and the administration can adopt whatever rules necessary to enforce these laws." But what the fuck constitutes clean air? They a lot of times they don't specify what enforcement mechanisms they want the administrations to use. They don't often specify how much the administrations need to use. The reason, I mean, I am personally of the opinion that giving too much power to bureaucrats is a shitty thing, but I also understand why they do it because Congress has not been specific enough. I mean, if you remember the acts such as the Restrict Act, the attempted sequel to the Patriot Act, they would often say things like, when determining foreign adversary, they were often very vague with what a foreign adversary is, and just said, oh, the commercial department will figure that out, or the State Department will figure that out, or how much action can you take? The Secretary of Commerce will figure it out. It was like, well, how much power are we giving the Secretary of Commerce? Can he declare almost anything a foreign adversary? It was unclear. And that's the problem with a lot of legislation that's come out of Congress. It's been unclear. And that's why the Chevron doctrine came into being. It came into being because they were trying to enforce laws that almost by their written nature were extremely difficult to enforce because it was so vague. And so now this falls on Congress now it doesn't mean that Congress can't allow any wiggle room. They can allow some wiggle room, right? They can maybe give a range of things. Maybe they can say, the administration can maybe still decide what are good metrics for clean air, right? They can still tell them that, but they'll have to give them a range of tools that they can use now. They're going to have to say, they can set carbon caps in order to meet that threshold, or they can set industry regulations regarding smokestack cleaning. They don't have to specify what they are, but they have to give them a range of tools now. They have to give them more range on what they're working with. They're just going to have to be specific now. Does this mean like all regulations are dead? Temporarily, a lot of them, yes. But that doesn't mean that a Congress could not still get those things through. This doesn't have to be a permanent death of all of these rules. They could be added back in.
With what you're saying, you're basically saying, look, to give you the authority to cap carbon emissions, it comes from Congress. You don't just automatically say, we're going to make the rules for clean air.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
it was you can't. The rule can come down that says you are allowed to create the caps. That's the law. Then you're allowed to do the caps. But if you can't just arbitrarily say we're going to cap it because we want clean air. So it's it's not as tough as you think it is. It's really just saying you get your power from Congress.
A very dysfunctional Congress that can get nothing done.
Only
That's
because
the
the Democrats aren't getting anything done.
This came at a very inconvenient time, without a doubt. This came at a very I understand the reasoning. The timing was a little tough because our Congress, I don't think right now is equipped to actually
it's the least functional.
Straighten out because
don't worry. In 2025, when it's Republican administration all the way across the board, and
they're not going to want it.
We'll get so much. We'll get.
You guys came in do that
so
when Trump had all
much
three
done.
branches.
We'll be getting
you
so
guys
much
came
done.
in agree on your own.
We'll be greater than great and greater than great.
We're talking about the reality is that we're going to have massive gridlock in Congress. Nothing's going to work. And again, this goes back to the conservative plan of smaller government. And with smaller government, that means less protections for Americans.
Well, think about this.
Yeah.
And when you look at the big picture, aren't your cities, aren't your counties, aren't your, uh, you know, your lower government already doing this? And then
No,
you have,
that's preempted by
then you have
Tallahassee.
Tallahassee,
No,
then
they
you
don't.
have Tallahassee.
I
Look,
can't.
I
We
get,
can't even go
look,
to the beach without getting poop in our mouth.
well,
What?
That's
What?
right.
okay. Well, David,
Yeah.
stop pooping in the water, okay?
DeSantis refused to sign a bill to regulate and notify the public that our beaches could be contaminated with impurities
Well, I hope so.
like
There are
poo.
fish in there, and the fish are going. You should have known that in the first place. I mean, do you
Poo.
not know that you're swimming where something else lives?
I'm talking about human
Regardless.
excrement because never mind. Never
I know
mind.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, we know what you mean. We know what you mean. He's just giving you a hard time.
The local government is preempted by the state government here in Florida. Nothing progressively moves in the direction to protect our vulnerable communities. And it depends on, how your local governments and state legislatures operate. And again, if
Well, I
we don't
mean,
like it here in Florida, we go to Illinois or New York. If we don't like it there, we
And
go to Colorado.
we
it's
understand
important
that
to connect
Osceola.
this.
We understand that Osceola dictates what Orange County can do with land usage. So we know that Orange has always been you
No, I know where you're going, and then you get places where if you're building on one side of the Osceola Orange County county line, and
you can flood
you
Osceola.
flood Osceola side, and yes, that is happening.
Right. That's why we
You
need.
know,
That's why the Chevron doctrine, I think, is really good, because what it means is you have to define it. Now you own it.
yeah,
You
yeah.
own it.
And I think what sucks right now is that most of these rules that are getting thrown out are consumer protections. To my understanding, I haven't been able to find definitive numbers on how much is null and void. I think a lot of these offices, a lot of these administrations are right now looking over everything to see what they can still enforce and what they can't.
Well, my
So
understanding, past regulations and rules still stand. It's just moving forward
okay,
is the issue.
but what's going to happen? I think without a doubt is they're going to get sued. I think a lot of these rules are going to get sued out if they try to enforce them because of how vague the enforcement is. And if they actually try to take like proactive steps to enforce a lot of these, they're just going to get sued and struck down. So, but yeah, so right now, I mean, there's not really a safe way to continue doing what a lot of these things are doing, especially a lot of these consumer protections. And I don't think we have a Congress right now that's willing to pass them. I think either side would rather see a consumer protection clarification, because right now what Congress is going to have to do, they're going to have to go back through their list of regulations and clarify what they mean, right? They're going to have to clarify what they mean. And right now I think both sides would rather see consumer, like things like consumer protections, fail and blame it on the other side than just put them in. I think right now because of
Oh, you
the
are
election.
really, you were really got a negative idea about the government. Look,
Kelly's,
you just need
Only
to.
the current one. Only the current one.
Donald Trump just needs to get elected, and he needs to implement the Huxley plan, which is send every single one of these agencies to a place where it can actually function outside of Washington. You want energy? Bring it. You send them to Alaska or send them to Texas. Where energy actually is being produced. Send your agencies out to these different places. California. I don't know what you can send to California, but anything that raises taxes, I guess. I don't know.
Veterans Administration.
No, the Veterans Administration. I know exactly where that's going to go. Florida, because we are
So
the
here,
most veteran-friendly state. No, listen.
I don't know.
I've always said, look, if you really want to get these organizations to work effectively, is get them out of Washington. And that's all I'm saying is that
well,
if you get them out of Washington, we have the technology where we can have those meetings, but get
Yeah.
them out where they're close to the people and they'll understand what's going on.
Right.
Because we have become too tied to Washington for everything.
yeah, and I think in the past they needed to be in Washington because they would need to lobby Congress sometimes. But you're absolutely right, Joel. I mean, these days you could Zoom into Congress and let them know. You can email them with a list of things that need to happen, and you can get relatively quick turnaround. Should the Congress decide they want to legislate today? Again, I mean, right now my pessimism mostly just comes from our current Congress. I think that I don't see that much wrong with this in theory, other than I feel bad for our judiciary because without a doubt, without a doubt, so many regulations going forward, even the ones that are well defined, are going to get suits filed against them. Some of them will be frivolous, some of them will be nonsense, and some of them won't really go anywhere. But right now, like I think one of the great issues with our federal government right now is how backed up the federal court and especially the circuit court is. If you look at how behind the Ninth Circuit is, and it has been behind on its work for years, and if you look at their workload, no human can do that workload that the Ninth Circuit has on time. It's crazy, and that's the circuit of the South, by the way. That circuit has way too many people and way too many cases per its 3 judges, and I think this ruling is going to push more cases into the courts, which I think
we need to, on your same thing, we need to stop. We need to stop this shopping for this judicial shopping. You know, hey,
we need a 10th.
Hey, look,
the Fifth Circuit in Texas.
If I want this to get up to the Supreme Court, I need to shop it around and see which court's going to be the best place.
Well, Justice Roberts did address that, and there's now a rotation of sorts. So Judge Kaminsky is not going to be the go-to for a lot of these challenges that we've seen in this last term.
Listen, we used to have the liberal court throwing stuff down all the time. Now we got conservative court throwing stuff down all the time. Look, I think that Judge, again, Roberts will go down as one of the best. I think,
and you may be right about the Thomas Court.
Because
you may be right.
He's
Roberts Court.
You want
isn't
Thomas?
Isn't that what I just said?
No, you
the
said
Thomas
Thomas,
Court.
and I know why you said it, but you know what? It's not Thomas's court because Thomas is stood alone on a lot of different issues. Listen, Roberts makes sure that he has a very, very good court, and I mean, whether you agree with him or disagree, I think they really think these things through.
Gentlemen, I pose this to the two of you. The voters, what do the voters make of this, and how do they weigh the decision on this Chevron deference when they go to the ballot?
You want to know my thoughts, David? You want to know my thoughts?
Yes, please, sir.
This decision came out the day after the debates. The public has no idea this happened. They don't know that it happened. They don't know what the Chevron doctrine is. They don't know why they give a shit, and they don't know why it affects them. I don't think this will make a damn difference in the election. I don't think this will make any difference.
That's right.
I think this doesn't make a damn difference in the grand scheme of things in the election. I think this is, one of the biggest changes that we've seen in a long time. Of course, in the long run, we'll adapt to it and everything will be fine eventually, as long as, once Congress goes through and clarifies what they mean by their rules. Once they do that, we'll be fine. And of course, we need to add that 10th Circuit because we need to expand the federal judiciary. If we do that and we clarify our rules, we'll be fine, and this ruling won't have all these negative effects that it has the potential to have.
Well,
can I pose this and you answer it too? So we're looking at the possible expansion of the judiciary.
I think it's been necessary for a long time. I think both sides have just been nervous to expand it.
Where you getting this money?
Well, yeah. I mean, Joel. Yes, we're also running a massive deficit. That's the other reason we don't want to expand it. I mean, right now we dump a lot of money into corporate welfare, even during times when it's not needed. Sometimes I understand it, recessions, all that, but we spend it even during good times of the economy. We waste a lot of money on a lot of different things. We do need that 10th Circuit, I think, especially because of how many more cases are going to be filed in federal court now. Under this ruling, but I think this ruling is.
You're talking about expanding the courts, not the court.
No. You don't expand the
courts.
The court. Okay, because the Democrats. I misheard that because I'm talking
courts.
I don't have a problem with adding a court.
Yeah. I'm talking Article 1
court, but I don't like the packing the Supreme Court, which is
that's stupid.
Completely different.
I'm talking Article 1 courts, not Article 3 courts.
I'm fine with that. But
we need to expand the Article 1 courts.
But that getting them through Congress, getting them through the Senate approval process is just as difficult.
And because you have to appoint judges, and that's a political move.
But here, what I was thinking of when you brought this up, David, is the first thing I thought of is Sotomayor, however you say her name.
Sotomayor.
And I'll say it eventually. I say it when I'm not on camera correctly. Listen, if she wants to defend democracy, then what she's looking for is that she has the right to be voted on and off the court. So I would vote for her to get off the court anytime, any day, right away.
Okay.
I'll cast a vote for Thomas personally, but
Thomas, I would vote for him on the court because, listen, he doesn't say much. He says more nowadays than he did
He
before.
does.
he's a lot louder now. Money talks.
Very
I think
vocal.
it's money talking, but that's just my opinion.
Listen, all he has to do is wait until the next election, and then he'll have a Republican replace him, and maybe he'll take his time off.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah, him and Alito have been there a long time. They're probably itching to retire sometime in the next few years. I would be shocked if they weren't.
Exactly.
I mean, you got 4 women on the court. 4.
Hey. I mean, at least we got 4. We got Kagan, Sotomayor, Barrett, and Jackson. So I mean, hey, at least
the only Democrats are women.
Right now, that is the case. The Democrats need to get their diversity up. But I think in closing with the Chevron doctrine case, in closing with the Chevron doctrine case, I think this is the most important case they've decided since Citizens United. I don't think this case is nearly as destructive as Citizens United. I think there's going to be some growing pains with this case, some growing pains that we're going to have to adapt to. But Congress, provided they're willing to do the work, is equipped to overcome those growing pains. It's just a matter of demanding better from our federal legislative branch. I cannot talk.
It just means the lobbyists will be writing more detailed laws.
Basically,
Yeah.
they're going to have to write more detailed laws.
This is definitely a cottage industry for lobbyists, and they'll get paid to do a little bit more than what they've done in the past.
And, it's more work for the actual department. They can't just arbitrarily make things up. They have to get approval.
I don't think they arbitrarily make things up, but, they're entitled to your opinion there.
They got to have the approval process now.
Right.
I mean, that's all. They've been doing it without an approval process. And you know what? Oversight is oversight.
Right. For a Congress that is already ineffective in comparison to past congressional terms, we're going to see that much more so, in my belief. Hopefully it's not going to be that case, but the dysfunction is very much clearly there. Again, Republicans had difficulty, managing things when, Trump had, both the judiciary and the legislature. So, this is unfortunate. However, this is what happens when you're not engaged as voters. And we need more representation by voters in the electoral process.
And ineffective, they want to call it ineffective. They just want to call it ineffective because it's not getting any of their agenda done. So we like a court, we like a Congress, that doesn't just throw laws down on us and regulate us and just kills us with everything. So look, working slower means you get better, then work slower, Congress. We don't have a problem with that. Let our local government do more. Look, my final word is this is the most important thing to come out of the Roberts Court. David wants a Thomas Court, so he should get one and see how really wonderful that would be to the Democrats, because I'm telling you, David, be glad that Roberts is in charge, because maybe Alito will take over too. I mean,
Alito would make more sense, I think.
My favorite Chief Justice was Rehnquist, and now I absolutely would have to say Republicans come after me, Democrats come after me, but Roberts really works hard to get good decision out of the court. Whether he gets it or not always. But this ruling, the way he wrote it, the last ruling, the way it was written, I think these are truly well thought out, well debated, and 9 justices doing their job.
Yeah.
Kellen?
But let us know what you think in the comment section below. Again, we're approaching the half-hour mark. I think we've already kind of exhausted what our thoughts are. Joel clearly loves the Roberts Court. I think there's going to be growing pains, and I think David's a little sad. But he would be less sad if you liked the video. He would be happier if you subscribed, if you followed us. We want to grow our community, and we want to hear what you think. You guys are an extension of this conversation. You guys can throw out your opinions. Bring your facts, not your feelings. If you're going to make a claim, try to back it up, so that way we can all work on the same field and with our information. But this has been You Can't Make This Shit Up. Kellen Clark, that's me. That's David Washington. And all the way over there is Joel Hoxley. Thank you very much for watching, and we are out.
Thank you, everyone.